Hi, I'm John Bates, and I'm a results leader.
You're listening to ResultsLeader.fm. Being a thought leader is easy. Getting results is hard. This show is for the results leader who lives and dies by their results. Here is your host and Chief Results Leader, Jonathan Rivera.
Boom, boom, pow. You're back, huh? It is time for another ResultsLeader.fm, and I am thrilled that you're here. I cannot wait to jump into the interview. If you love it half as much as I did, you are going to have an amazing day after listening to my conversation with Mr. John Bates. He is a leadership communication expert. Dude coached Dolph Lundgren on his TED Talk, and he is just an inspiring and uplifting fellow. And I think you'll feel that energy as soon as we jump in. Let's go. John, my man, welcome to the show. Are you ready to rock this thing?
I am ready, Jonathan. I'm ready.
I know you're ready. I can tell. I can feel the energy coming off you. So let's give our listeners a quick win. What book or books have you given most as a gift?
Wow. Recently I've been giving a book as a gift that I got as a gift. So I think it fits this category extra well. And it's called Creativity by John Cleese, who used to be with Monty Python. I don't know if you know Monty Python, but John Cleese's book, Creativity. And there's a few reasons I give it as a gift. First of all, it's just freaking fabulous and brilliant. And I think it really gives people a great insight into creativity that maybe not people who aren't performers or musicians or things sometimes don't get this angle on creativity. And it's very short. It's a beautiful little hardcover book, and it just feels like the perfect gift to me.
I'm going to have to pick up a copy.
There you go.
You sold me on it. So I want you to think back and tell us a story of how an apparent failure set you up for later success.
Jonathan, you're talking about my entire freaking life. So I have a pretty cool job now, getting to work with top leaders all over the world on their communication, their strategic communication, their emotional intelligence, making sure that comes across. And I think the only reason I can do what I do now, the way that I do it, and at the level I do it, is because I raised several $100 million with my various companies in Silicon Valley and beyond, leading up to the dotcom days and in the dotcom days, and I never had a successful exit. So what I'm saying is I can raise it, but I absolutely starkly, blatantly freaking failed. And the big daddy of them all for me was bigwords.com. I started it with 3 other co-founders. We raised well over $80 million in the dot-com day. And then the market turned. Our investors said, look, we don't think you're going to be profitable fast enough. You've done a lot of things right, but we're going to have to pull the plug. So they pulled the plug on us after $80 million. We had about 500 employees. I was the face of the company. And Jonathan, I was demolished. I was crushed. It was still probably one of the worst experiences of my whole entire life. And I was so ashamed and upset and hurt and freaked out that I almost died of an autoimmune disease, which I think in hindsight was me, like just how much I hated myself at that moment and how awful I felt, right? And it just expressed itself as an autoimmune disease that almost killed me. And in the hospital, I remember thinking that I was maybe going to die. It was not I've never had doctors look at me like they were worried about whether I was going to make it before. That's a terrible experience, And I remember having a conversation with the universe. I call it the big is, the beingness of the universe. And I said, I see my life has been really small and selfish. And I really don't want that to be how I go out. Please give me another chance. If you give me another chance, I promise that the thing I'll care about the most is just making a difference. That'll be my number one goal in everything I ever do from now on. And I got to walk out. I was not okay for a long time, but I remember that promise, and I've been honoring that promise. And the experience of all those failures, including that one, and the compassion that I learned and the hard lessons that I learned, that's what makes me able to even do what I do now. Because any executive, anybody at any level in life can feel totally safe around me because I've probably failed at least as bad as they have or worse. And I have deep compassion on that and a lot of space for that.
What would you say is the most worthwhile investment you've ever made?
Uh, okay, so the first thing that pops in my mind is Netflix, because like I bought it because Motley Fool recommended it, and it's up like 1,300 times, for me. But I don't think that's the most valuable investment. That's a great investment, and I'm pretty stoked on that. But I think that the greatest investment, and maybe the most difficult investment that I've made in my life, is in myself. Because that, for me, like, at times it seemed self-indulgent. At times it seemed like I should be doing something else. At times it seemed selfish. But every time that I kept coming back and working on myself and doing things that would make me a better person, the difference that I made in the world grew and continues to grow. And the fulfillment and reward that I see in my life continues to grow. So I know, it might sound a little trite, but I think that the most important, best investment I've made is in myself, and I would go further and say to take those courses, especially, and do those things and invest in myself to learn those things that I thought I already knew. Right? When I would get to beginner's mind and then go ahead and step into that, it would enrich me in ways that I just could never have predicted.
You said it felt selfish. How is investing in yourself selfish?
Well, fundamentally, I think objectively, if there is such a thing, it is not selfish. I think it's the greatest gift that you can give to the world, is to invest in yourself so you can show up better every day. And I do think that I'm not the only person maybe that sometimes feels like spending all this time focused on myself might be somehow self-indulgent, right? And I just think we need to get over that. Like, if every day you can do something so that you'll show up better out there in the world, well, that's a gift for everybody and everything that you ever come in contact with. And when I finally started seeing it that way and seeing it as an imperative versus a nice to have, everything changed. Everything changed. And I remember distinctly one day, Jonathan, saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to start paying retail for stuff that really matters to me. And I'm going to start charging retail too. And it was an enormously empowering day for me. I bought a $300 shirt that I still wear on stages. And I think a little while after that, I invested in a course that seemed pretty expensive, but seemed like it would make a big difference. And I increased my prices to reflect the value of what I was doing. And all of those things made a huge difference for me.
Nobody has ever said that. And you saw, because you're here looking at me, smile ear to ear, because we had an experience like that. And it's 3 words that changed our life. I'll take it. Didn't matter what it cost. Didn't matter what it was. The condo I'm sitting in, $500,000. I'll take it.
I'll take it. Yes, yes, yes. Because look, if you can't say that to somebody who's trying to sell you something that you want, that you're happy to pay that money for, then how could you expect anybody to say, I'll take it to you, right? Like, it's, there you go.
That's it, man.
That's awesome,
That's
Jonathan. And it does look like a very nice condo.
It ain't bad. It ain't bad.
Yeah.
So in the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
You know, this is a relatively new one, but for a long time, my wife and I were really interested in what we were eating and trying to eat well and things. And then we had our baby boy, and he just turned 5. And we, boy, then it was really all hands on deck to eat well. And over that, the course of learning to eat well and thinking so hard about it because of our son, about 1.5 years ago, my wife just said, "Hey, look, we're going full on plant-based, whole food plant-based." And I was like, "Oh, yeah." And so I said, "Okay, I'll do it. I'm still going to cheat a little bit. I'm not going to be perfect, but let's do it." Right. Because I always said, if somebody would cook for me like that, I would eat like that all the time. And so for the last 1.5 years, I have. And I used to have cholesterol that was, like kind of through the roof, and too much bad cholesterol, not enough good cholesterol. When I went to see the doctor recently, he was like, "Well, based on your blood cholesterol levels, I wouldn't even recommend you take statins. But because of your history, I decided to take statins, and because I want to be around for a long time. I'm kind of an older dad, and my son's 5, right? But that has definitely impacted the quality of my life and my health. And we see it in the blood tests. I see it in, during the pandemic, I lost 10 pounds happily. Most of my friends gained 15 pounds, so eating whole food plant-based and, I say whole food plant-based to avoid the judginess. Like, I'm not like, look, if you eat half as much meat starting tomorrow, you've just cut that in half. That's awesome. It's all good with me, but that has really made a big difference in just how I feel and in the physics of my body.
What are some bad recommendations you hear in your area of expertise?
Oh, man. There's a reason I don't call myself a speaker coach, because pretty much I feel like if somebody calls himself a speaker coach, you can pretty much guarantee it's going to be a whole bunch of bad advice. So, I was training this large consulting company doing pitch coaching for them. And they're going out doing multi-million-dollar pitches on a freaking daily basis practically. And they told me that, this one guy I was working with, he got up and he started to speak, and he was using his hands. And then all of a sudden he kind of caught himself, and he put his hands together, put his fingertips together, kind of like Spock, and then totally pressed them together and just kept them there in front of himself. And then when he finally couldn't handle it anymore, I think he was part Italian, and I'm not kidding. He put his hands down, he straightened his arms out, put his hands down together right in front of his crotch, and started twiddling his thumbs. And I was like, okay, this is getting really distracting, And I stopped him and paused him. I said, "So, what's going on over there? Let me just tease you for a minute, because you've been holding your hands right in front of your crotch, twiddling your thumbs now for about 3 minutes. And are you trying to say something with that?" And he laughed, right? We all laughed. And he said, "Well, we had this speaker coach, air quotes, come and tell us that we shouldn't use our hands when we talk. He said we should put our fingertips together and keep them like that because it implies power," right? But then, he's naturally wants to use his hands. So after a little bit of that, he just couldn't help it. And that's why his arms just straightened themselves out, and he was twiddling his thumbs. And I said, "Okay, so let me just disabuse you of that. Okay, that's bad advice. That's very bad advice. Here's the good advice. Use your hands when you talk, just like you normally want to. That's how we've done it for millennia," right? And there's a woman who studied TED Talks that went viral. She picked a bunch of TED Talks, like Simon Sinek. And then she said, "Oh, he's talking about leadership. let's get a few TED Talks that didn't go quite as viral, that only have 750,000 views or 1 million views, right? And let's compare the ones that didn't go as viral as Simon and see what we notice. One of the first things that she noticed was everybody that went wildly viral, you could see their hands the whole time. They never, ever put them behind their back, put them in a pocket. And the reason that's important is because the minute one of your hands disappears, our unconscious brain thinks you're getting a rock or something. What's going to happen with that? Where'd the hand go, right? So her advice and my advice absolutely is keep your hands out there in front of you. Use your hands like you naturally would when you're talking, because that keeps them visible. It keeps them open. You know, when you put your fingers together like that power move, right? I think anytime your hands go together for longer than just a few seconds, it starts to look either artificial or pleading. So if you bring your hands together, great. Just now that you notice, bring them apart again and bring them back in and start using them. So, you know, that's one of just a million examples of what I think is wrong with speaker coaches, you know?
He's calling out the whole industry. I dig it, man. So,
Yeah.
John, why do results matter?
Well, I mean, what else are we here for on some level, right? Like I can't think of something nice. I could sit in the bathtub and pop my farts all day, but like, that's not going to get us anywhere, right? Like you show up, like that's what we're here for, right? Is results. And that's, you know, that's why I love doing what I do, because bringing the neurobiology of communication to leaders and to communication events, like that's what creates the bottom line outcomes. I think that people have the mistaken view that logic is what does it, right? Oh, I got this super logical business plan. It all makes totally great sense. We're going to go pitch it and raise millions. Okay, well, look, logic's necessary. You have to have a business plan that's good or you're never going to even get in the door. But a whole bunch of people get in the door. A whole bunch of people have great logical business plans. How do you be the one to get the investment, to get that $1 million check or $10 million check or whatever it is you're after? That's results. And the results are driven not by the logic. You know, communicating with human beings is not logical. It's biological. And when you understand the biology, you can bring logic to it again. But if you go in thinking logic should win, well, logic's necessary, but it's not sufficient. And that is, so results are what I'm assuming we are all after. And if the results don't matter to you, then we're not playing the same game. You know, results are why we're here. And that's why I love what I do, because that's what I am absolutely the most focused on is how do you achieve those bottom line results? How do you inspire people to get them to actually take action and have them remember you and inspire loyalty and love and trust and, you know, have people get on board fully with what you're doing and sign the check and say yes to the proposal? I mean, isn't that what we're basically all here doing in the first place? Like, if you're not doing that, then I don't know what's up.
All right, we're about to get into the results portion of the show. But before we do that, I got to ask you, have you shared the show? If you're digging what I'm laying down here, then I want to ask you to share this show with somebody who will find it helpful. Share it on your social medias. Use the hashtag ResultsLeaderFM, and I'll be looking for you out there. Thank you. In the last 5 years, what new realization has helped you get better results for your clients?
Ooh. So what's a new realization that's helped me get better results for my clients? You know, realizing just deepeningly and ongoingly realizing just how much everybody has that inner critic that knows exactly where to stick the knife in, you know? Like nobody could ever hurt us as badly as we could hurt us, you know? And to just ongoingly, more and more, over and over, understand that it doesn't matter what level someone's at. It doesn't matter how much they've conquered that inner critic. There's always that little bit left that is just there to handle, So being aware of that, giving people ways to deal with it once they thought they'd already dealt with it, reminding them that when they take a whole new level and show up in a room where, oh, wow, like they haven't been in a room where they felt intimidated for 10 years and now they're in that room and they do feel intimidated. Oh, guess what? It's back. So how do you deal with that? How do you remember that? How do you bring that to your leadership so that you're not reacting to that all the time? You're actually being with what is and being present. That's something that I think has just been an ongoing unfolding realization for me, both for myself and for my clients.
What area of your business would you like better results?
I feel like Brene Brown says she felt in her second TED Talk when she says, I, as much as I wanted to get my work out there and as much as I wanted to, bring attention to it and make a difference for people, I found myself engineering just slightly below the radar, just not quite getting the attention and the notice that I said I wanted to generate. And I think that's it. I've been doing this for a decade. It's going well. And I know the difference that I make. I know the difference it is for people. And now my big focus is to just dramatically, broadly expand that and make it much more available to a much broader group of people so that we can ultimately make a much greater difference.
What are you doing to expand it?
I'm investing in myself. I'm definitely have gotten into a couple of courses that I think are making a difference for that. I'm also buckling down and being more rigorous about doing some social media. I have gotten over my fear of having anybody else depend on me. Ever since we lost Big Words and I 500 employees all got locked out and I didn't even get to say thank you, I love you, I'm sorry. I haven't wanted to have anybody depend on me at all. And I'm just like, I'm going to do a one-man thing. It's good with me. But this is not going to happen that way, So I've brought on some team members. I'm being more rigorous about just being really generous and putting things out on social media and my newsletter, which is actually a mini training every week. And I'm opening my mind to what else is there to do here? How do I do this, and thinking about who really is my client and what really are they struggling with and how really do I speak to them in a way that they'll hear it. So those are the things that I'm doing right now. And, definitely stepping outside my comfort zone.
What results are you most proud of?
Boy, there's a really great example of what I'm proud of that would be a stand-in for hundreds of other things like it, which is the TEDx talk that I got to support Dolph Lundgren in giving. So Dolph Lundgren from the Rocky movies, he's the Swedish guy who played the Russian Draco, I will kill you, whatever. I got to work with him on his talk at TEDx Fulbright. And he was one of the most coachable, brilliant, smart, amazing people I've ever met, and I kind of thought he was a meathead before, and I think a lot of people do. But what you find out is he's actually a Fulbright scholar. He's super, super brilliant. And the talk that he gave, it was called On Healing and Forgiveness. And he talks about breaking the cycle of child abuse because he was abused by his father as a child. And he told me afterwards that he met a cop who came up to him and shook his hand and said, "Hey, I'm a big fan. I loved you in all those in Rocky and all your movies, but I got to tell you," and he said a tear came to his eye. He said, "I love your TED Talk even more." And that gets me out of bed every day. That human connection, that vulnerability, that authenticity. That's how we're going to make a difference here. If we all keep hiding it and shoving it under, that we'll never get there. That generosity of sharing things for the difference it can make. And all of the people who maybe aren't as famous as Dolph Lundgren, but went and did something as similarly generous. That's what I'm the most proud of, that I get to be a part of that.
Any parting thoughts you want to share with the results leaders out there?
Here's something for results leaders. In my Live Like a Leader course, which is a year-long leadership course, we have a cohort going through there now. And the big conversation right now in that course is something that I think could make a difference here. And it's said various ways, but one great way to say it, I think, is perfect is the enemy of the good. Another way to say it is perfect is the enemy of done. And how I've been saying it lately is my motto for 2021, and boy, have I been living up to it, is imperfect action. Because I had this big insight earlier this year that perfect action is reserved for the Great Spirit. And ain't none of us the Great Spirit, So perfect action is impossible, actually. So I'm all for imperfect action, getting it done, and then iterating, just go do it. And then next time, do it even better.
I dig it, man. I know our listeners are digging it, and I know they're going to want more from you. I know you have a podcast, website. Drop everything, everywhere we can get in touch with you. Of course, we'll share it in the show notes as well, but put it out there, please.
Great. So my website is executivespeakingsuccess.com. So that's pretty simple. You can reach me there, find my social media channels. I do put out a weekly mini training that you can sign up for there if you would like. I think it's a great idea to just keep your head in the game of thinking about your leadership and communication, because you're doing it all day, every day. But once a week to just check in and maybe hold this thought for this week and this thought for that week. If people are interested in my cohort-based or my online courses, they can go directly to ed.executivespeakingsuccess.com. That's ED for education. And then the podcast is called Speak Like a Leader .show. And this morning, I just got to interview, it'll come up in a week or two, just got to interview Satya Bratadam, who's one of the top alpinists, the top high altitude climbers in the world. He's set all kinds of world's records, done all kinds of amazing things. He's a Royal Geographic Society fellow and a TED fellow. And we just had a fabulous conversation just today that'll be up there. So it's about leadership. It's about communication. It's about human connection, great stories, great people. And, I think that's, once people get to those things, I think they can find the other stuff I'm doing pretty easily from there. And I really appreciate the chance to share this with people who are interested in results and people who are interested in making a difference in the world and bringing their best selves to everything they do.
We have been speaking with Mr. John Bates. Thank you for being here, brother. Thank you for sharing your energy with us. I dig it, man. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. We will be back in your earbuds next time. That is a wrap for another edition of ResultsLeader.fm. If you are out there getting results for your clients and you want to be featured on the show, go to ResultsLeader.fm now and apply to be on the show. And if you love what you're hearing, share the show, give us a rating and review, do anything to help us get the message out there.
Thought leadership is easy, but results leadership is hard. We'll catch you on the next one.
This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.